Sri Sai Ram. Thank you, dear brother Amitesh and sister Shalini, for this beautiful musical offering. Now, it gives me immense joy and privilege to introduce our guest speaker. With the grace and blessings of our beloved Bhagwan, it gives me great pleasure in introducing our speaker for this morning's program, Sister Urvi Widhani. Sister Urvi is a very committed and active member of the Sathya International Organization, currently serving in multiple ways as part of the SSIO content team, as Secretary of the International Medical Committee and Medical Coordinator for Region 9B. For 22 years now, she has been involved in organizing several services, medical and disaster relief camps, often in remote areas of the world, such as Russia, Africa, Guyana, Philippines, and India, among others. She moved from the UK to UAE 5 years ago and works as an investment banker. Sister Urvi says her involvement in Sai activities has helped her to understand the importance of selfless love and service with humility as a tool for spiritual transformation. The title of Sister's talk today is Personal Experiences of Swami's Message and Service. Let us all welcome Sister Urvi. Jai Sai Ram.
Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my most loving and humble pranams at the lotus feet of our dearest, sweetest, Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. Thank you, dearest Swami, for bringing me to the UK Young Adults Virtual Aradhana Day program this morning. Sai Ram, dear young adults, thank you so much for making time for today's session, where you've all made an effort to get up early and dedicate your time for a very moving and auspicious observation. What a beautiful offering this morning. I've enjoyed every part of the program. During this pandemic, it's a very good way to put into practice what Swami would have liked us to do, to bring Prashanti Nilayam close to our hearts and homes. We pray to Swami that today, as we remember him, we sanctify our body, mind, soul, and make our home a Prashanti Nilayam where he shows his presence to each one of us. We have two themes to ponder on today, Aradhana and Bhakt Sakha Bhagwan. The three simple words, Bhakt Sakha Bhagwan, have such deep meaning, and one can reflect on this in many ways. If we want to make God our best friend, we need to follow his words implicitly. So what is it that we have to do? To me, Aradhana is more than a puja or prayer. To me, Aradhana is to follow Swami's teachings. In a divine discourse, Swami once said, "You keep saying, 'What have you done for me, Swami?' And Swami said, 'What have you done for Swami? What have we done for Swami?' His first command is love all, serve all. These are the only 4 words we will see on the Mahasamadhi. Love all, serve all. Of course, we are very blessed to know his sweet divine name, his beautiful form, his nectarine teachings, but the greatest sign of his blessings is for us to do his work. Swami has said that he has been preparing us for lifetimes as instruments to do his work, and we need to do this with humility, eagerness, love, and selflessness. I personally have learned and related to Swami's teachings through service, and I'd like to share some of my experiences. I'll take you to a page in my life when I attended the Second World Youth Conference in Prashanti Nilayam in 1999, where amongst the many things that Swami mentioned in his discourses, the one that really struck a chord within me and brought a turning point into my life was Swami's emphasis on seva and sacrifice. Swami underlined service as an essential means for one's transformation, and I was really inspired to do my bit from then onwards. In parallel, I got the opportunity to hand a letter to Swami during darshan. In the letter, the only thing that I'd written was a small request to Swami to make his instrument to serve in his mission. Well, Swami already had a master plan for my life. Within a few weeks after I returned to the United Kingdom, I was given the opportunity to help coordinate international medical camps by Sathya International Organization of UK. Born in Kenya, having seen a lot of poverty around me, I had the yearning to make a difference in people's lives. However, I was not in the medical field. I was actually in the finance sector. I'd never organized medical camps. So I'd like to ask all of you, who can serve in Swami's mission? Is it doctors? Is it lawyers? Is it office bearers? Is it young? Is it old? Well, someone quite beautifully summarized this. Swami picks and chooses not the ones who are capable. Swami chooses people and makes them capable for the task he or she was chosen for by Swami. And that has been my experience too. I've seen the journey. I was not capable, but Swami made me capable. He was with me at all times, at every single step. I like to share a small incident. I'll take you to a medical camp for Sierra Leone. A medical camp to Sierra Leone was being arranged, and lots of medical specialists and volunteers were joining the camp. At the last minute, Peter Fernandez requested the organizer if he could join the camp. The organizer asked him what he'd like to do and what he does, and Peter said he was a handyman and could do repair work. The organizer already had so many volunteers and hence politely said no to Peter and requested him to join at the next camp instead. As soon as she put the phone down, the organizer felt she shouldn't have said no. So she called back Peter and asked him to join the camp. Well, that must have been a prompt from Swami. Now, fast forwarding to the camp in Sierra Leone. The campsite was attached to a local hospital, and the patients were being referred by the doctors for hospital tests, such as blood tests, x-rays, and so on. When the camp commenced, unfortunately, the hospital team informed the organizer that the x-ray machine and a lot of other medical equipment was spoiled and not in working condition. The organizer immediately remembered Peter and asked him if he could help in repairing medical instruments. He instantly said yes, and lo and behold, the instruments that were marked as obsolete or closed were all fixed by Peter. Slit lamp, x-ray machine, you name it. A hospital fellow mentioned that to fix these instruments, they've had to take them to South Africa and would have cost them thousands of dollars, and hence they were considered obsolete at one point. Without Peter, the doctors would not have found any work to do, and their role would have been redundant, as without basic tests, the doctors would not have been able to complete the assessment or diagnosis properly. Not even a handyman Peter wasn't even a handyman for medical instruments. Yet Swami chose Peter for the task at the medical camp in Sierra Leone, as Peter had the urge to serve and make his life purposeful. Today being Saturday, I relate the theme Bhakt Sakha Bhagwan to Hanuman and Lord Rama's relationship. You may all know that both Vibhishan and Hanuman were great devotees of Lord Rama. Vibhishan asked Hanuman once, "Why is it that you're so close to Lord Rama? I also chant Lord Rama's name." Then Hanuman, with humility, said, "Apart from Rama's naam, i.e. the name, we also need to do Rama's kaam, his work." He emphasized on his work. To be dear to God, we need to participate in his mission. One of the essential qualities of a leader is to have self-confidence, implicit faith in the master, astuteness, i.e. what to do, when to do, an intense urge and passion to serve, whatever the obstacles may come in the way. When Lord Rama was in search of Mother Sita, Lord Rama once asked the Vanarsenai, the team of monkeys, "How will I find Sita? Will anyone go to Lanka?" No one put their hand up, but Hanuman put his hand up and said, "I will." So Lord Rama asked him, "Do you know the way to Lanka?" And Hanuman said, "No." Lord Rama asked Hanuman further, "How will you get there?" Hanuman said, "I don't know." So Lord Rama said, "Well, how will you go and find Sita if you don't know how to get there?" At this point, Lord Hanuman said, "I will complete your task because you, my Lord, will get me there." What Swami loves is for us to say yes to any service opportunity. And especially if the youth are ready to serve, Swami will be so happy. In 2006, in April, Brother Shittu was in Kodaikanal. And during darshan, Swami asked him, "How are the youth? When are you bringing the youth?" So Brother Shittu was caught by surprise as he had no such plans. So Brother Shittu said, "Swami, whenever you say." And Swami said, "November is good, bring the youth." Brother Shittu implicitly agreed. He didn't say, "Oh, it's during studies," or "it's too short a time to plan," and so on. It didn't matter whether 1, 5, or 50 were attending. He implicitly obeyed. He was ready to go with Swami's command. Just like how Hanuman said he will go to look for Mother Sita. Within 6 months, a youth pilgrimage was arranged, and the UK youth were at Swami's divine abode. They all got a lot of opportunities and blessings from Swami. So, dear young adults, I only hope that we grab every little opportunity that's presented before us with full faith that Swami will make us capable to carry out his task in his way, and he'll make us worthy instruments in his mission. When you serve, the love flows through you, and you'll be able to feel and understand the concept of unconditional love that Swami speaks about. And you'll understand many other teachings of Swami. And that's been my experience. Coming back to medical camps, during the planning or preparation of these camps, and while conducting them, Swami showed his omnipresence in different ways, which helped me internalize some of his precious teachings. Let me share a couple of these incidences. During a trip to Russia, the UK medical team had significant excess luggage containing medical items. Well, this was causing some worry, so naturally we called on to Bhagwan, our only refuge, and we silently chanted the Gayatri mantras as we approached the airport check-in counter. When it was our turn, suddenly the weighing scales there went out of order, and all our baggage was accepted without being questioned. For me, this was a proof of Swami's words, "Why fear when I'm here? You do my work and I'll take care of yours." During one medical camp in Kenya in 2004, we set up the campsite one afternoon. And in every consulting room, we placed Swami's photo. The camp was due to start the next day, but when you go to villages, even when you're setting up the camp ahead of the official camp kicking off, the word goes round and the villagers turn up and they start queuing because they know the doctors have arrived. An African Muslim lady arrived during the setup time. She was in a burqa and she pointed out to Swami's picture and she said, "I have seen him." I assumed she's seen him on TV or something like that. She then stated, "I have seen him when he came to Nairobi in 1968. Dear young adults, what are the chances of you meeting an African Muslim lady, and that too the first patient in the camp, opening with such beautiful experience? He showed yet again that he is there before us in any work that he wants us to undertake. Swami will never let his devotees down, and by making us his instruments, he reinforces our faith. In such events, started to deepen my understanding of Swami's teachings. Another lesson I've learned from Swami is that when we serve God, we have to do the best in everything we do. Attention to detail is so necessary. I have a few experiences in this regard, and the one that I'd like to share this morning is a medical camp in Nepal. The last 7 of Dr. Nikhila's patients had the same symptoms of a viral cold and cough. And she did a quick examination and advised the same treatment for each of them. Just as she finally got up and packed her stethoscope as they were tired, they had a long day, and they were ready to go to the hotel, a lady rushed in with a 5-year-old girl. When asked, she described the same symptoms, cough, cold, fever, all that seemed familiar. Just as she was going to give this child the same treatment as the other 7 patients, somehow Swami prompted Dr. Nikki. She unpacked her medical kit that she initially didn't plan to, and she decided to examine this girl more thoroughly. Dr. Nikki was shocked and surprised to find that the child in fact had pneumonia. The most common cause of child deaths is pneumonia. Nikki silently thanked Swami for saving this young child that day. Nikki dreaded to think what would have happened if she did not get the prompt from Swami. Our loving Lord took care of this little one and taught us one of the most important lessons in medicine, lesson learned for all of us. The very last patient, maybe the most challenging case, we need to be alert always. No matter how tired we are, we have to have the same enthusiasm with the last as with the first patient or the task that you undertake. This is the quality of work and detail that Swami would expect us to apply in any task we carry out. I believe that Swami has guided me during medical camps, the planning, the coordination, the execution of all of this. I've felt Swami's presence constantly and have had the chance to experience the pure and unconditional love from many people I have come in contact with, including patients and the less fortunate members of the society. In this process, he's also equipped me with skills that are helpful in my professional field. I've also experienced that when we are focused on Swami and dedicate ourselves to his work, he takes care of both our spiritual yearnings as well as our material needs. On this note, I'd like to share some photographs of few medical camps. And please ask for the photo presentation to be brought up. The first slide, we can see Swami, how he's serving, he's bending, and the love that he's giving so much joy to the patients. If we can go to the next slide, please. This is during the youth medical camp in Prashanthi Nilayam 2004. The youth are helping to pack up. This is preparation, a lot of energy there, a lot of effort. On the right side, you see a photo of all the baggage, how the luggage is labeled, and there's a lot of effort that goes before the medical camp goes there. Next slide, please. This is a slide to show that all are equal and we can all work and do seva. There is no high work or low work. We can be given any task and we accept that with love. On the left side, we've got two very senior doctors, and Dr. Daryl is a surgeon and Dr. Mahesh Gayal from US, and both are just lifting boxes. On the right side, Phil Heaton was the SSIO chairperson, and he's helping a lady. She couldn't walk, so they were taking her in a chair. It would have been very easy for all of them to have delegated the work, but they did this work. So let's accept any task that Swami gives us, and let us take this as his will for us to serve in his mission. Next slide, please. This is just to show you what it's like in a medical camp. You know, there are massive queues on the right side. If we go from the right side, immense number of people queue up from the morning. These people have walked thousands or hundreds of miles and have come to the camp because they've heard there's a doctor there to see them. They've not got regular doctors in their villages. And look at the queue, and they're waiting patiently. They're not mourning. And this is the thing. We're right now in a pandemic. We're in a lockdown. And yet we complain about, you know, when can we go out and all of that. But there's so much to learn from these patients that, you know, we can wait and our chance will also come, and we need to wait for the right time. Let us accept it. On the top left, that's a registration desk. Every medical camp is different. This was more sophisticated. This was in Alike, and the students had set up an online kind of a e-registration portal. Next slide, please. This is the young adult medical camp in 2004 in Puttaparthi. You can see a lot of joy, patience, and the volunteers are very, very happy. Next slide, please. This is, you know, pharmacy setup. On the bottom is pediatrics, and you can see the love and the gratitude the mother has for the doctor seeing the patients. Next slide, please. This is a slide of how, you know, when you go out in to serve, you'll be humbled at how the poor people or the less fortunate members of the society accept anything that's given to them in any circumstance. On the left side, the picture may not be clear, but it's a patient who couldn't walk, and he was brought into a wheelbarrow. Although he was in a lot of pain, he accepted it. On the right side, the gentleman's glasses, as you can see on the top, they were broken, and over these years, he was wearing them with some thread and some DIY fix that he had. He got the new pair of glasses, which are on the red glasses at the bottom. But, you know, you can see that he never complained, and he was happy, and he's still happy after getting the glasses. Next slide, please. another slide to show how, the less fortunate members, how much we can learn from them as to what is happiness. This was a camp in 2005 in Jodhpur in India, and it was a school with polio affected kids, and they're all so happy. They got dental kits, and they were really, really happy, and you can see the conditions that they are living in. Next slide, please. Again, when we go on medical camps, we ask the volunteers to go and look out for needy patients and maintain a one-to-one relationship with the patients. On the top side, it's a malnutrition baby, and a volunteer found them, and they were then looked after. On the right side, you can see what this gentleman has. There's very little that he has, and there's so much contentment and peace on his face when you see him. On the left bottom, this is a house lady, and she couldn't read the letters that we normally read when we go for an optometry or eyesight test. So the gentleman, the volunteer, brought some dal and asked her to look at the dal and said, "Hey, Amma, can you do this?" So that was his way to adapt and try and do his eye test. So these were some interesting things that we see in the camps. Next slide, please. Now, whatever work we do, we will be tested, but we need to see how we can come out of it in joint spirit. On the left side, we were all going to a camp, and we were stuck at the airport for nearly 24 hours to get the next flight. And everybody patiently just sat there, sang a few bhajans or chanted or chatted and all of it. On the right side, it rained heavily. It was a camp in Mombasa, and it rained heavily. And what the volunteers did was, one by one, they took the patients to the consulting rooms to make sure that nobody has a fall and all of it. So the one-to-one relationship was brought there, and a lot of love came out. And the next slide, please. And I apologize if if you get upset seeing this slide. The purpose of this slide is to show you something. On the left side, this was a camp in Dang in Gujarat, where it was a school with blind children. And again, we learned so much from them, that they just accept the situation they are in. They're happy. They're really, really happy. On the right side, it's a lady who brought a child to the medical camp in Africa. And this lady was with the child for months and months, and she couldn't do anything because she had no access to medical treatment. Look at the condition of this child. And the only time she could bring the child was when there was a set of doctors who came to her village to serve. Now, brothers and sisters, the point is, there are many out there who are helping to be heard, who are waiting to be heard, who are waiting to be seen, who are waiting to be spoken to. They need help. And this is where Swami wants us to help people. And the last slide speaks for itself. You can see, when you are engaged in service activities, everybody is happy, the recipient and the giver. And you can see how the volunteers are happy, how the children are happy. And this is where you'll experience a lot of love when you're engaged in service activities. And this brings an end to the presentation. And in conclusion, I'd like to say that the only way we can show gratitude to our beloved Master is through service. If we say we love the Master, that love must transcend and must transmit into seva and service. The call is to all young men and women, join into service, because through service is salvation. This is the day we all commit to action, even if that's doing something from home. I sincerely thank the organizers of today's program, and Sister Nirali in particular, for the opportunity given to me. I offer my gratitude to our true friend Sai for the continued support and guidance. Let us all pray that Swami gives us the strength and make us humble servants for a selfless cause within Swami's mission until the last breath. It's a very rare opportunity to work in Swami's mission, which bears his name. Jai Sai Ram.
Thank you, Sister Urvi, for your beautiful talk. There were some poignant points that you made: to have intense faith in the Lord, to know that He is our true Bhakta Sakha Bhagwan, our one true friend, to grab all the opportunities Swami places before us, to be alert at all times, to be ready to be tested at every point of our life, and to render any service selflessly, fully surrendering to Bhagwan, and to make everything perfect, as Swami is the epitome of perfection himself. Again, thank you so much, Sister Urvi, for sharing your experience and wisdom with us. Now, tying on the same theme, I'd like to introduce our next special guest speaker, Sister Nirali. Sister Nirali is one of our co-national young adults coordinators who brings with her a wealth of experience within areas of pharmacy, music, and media. Sister Nirali hails from Leicester and is a fourth-generation Sai devotee. The presence of Swami in her life has always inspired her to serve others. This has led to her pursuing a career in pharmacy, where she is one of the youngest senior clinical prescribing pharmacists specializing in cardiology. She continues to inspire others in her team with her capacity as the training and education lead. With Swami being her guiding light, she has had the opportunity to serve in numerous service projects, notably leading the health awareness of the homeless initiative in Region 4 and volunteering at the Prashanthi Nilayam medical camps. She is currently a member of the UK National Healthcare Committee. She is also a talented percussionist and song composer. She has had the blessed opportunity to perform in the divine presence of our beloved Bhagwan, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. On an international level, Nirali has helped in organizing programs for Ladies' Day and other young adult initiatives in Prashanthi Nilayam. Having completed the full SSC program, Nirali has held multiple roles on various different levels. I personally am very proud and honored to be working closely with such enthusiastic and dedicated sister and friend. Nirali is an inspiration for us all. With that said, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce my sister and friend, Nirali. The title of her talk is Swami, Our One True Friend. Jai Sadhu.
Sorry, everybody. Thank you, Sister Kavita, for that introduction. I offer my loving and humble pranams at the lotus feet of my everything, my dearest Swami. I thank Swami for providing me with the opportunity to share our bond with all of my brothers and sisters. We all have that special relationship with Swami, whether it's as a God, mother, father, best friend. Ultimately, Swami is everything to us. When we need parents, he gives us love, protection, and guidance. And when we need a friend, he gives us that understanding, compassion, and never leaves our side. My relationship with Swami evolved over time. As a child, Swami was God to me. That's what we were told and taught. And, his picture would be in my altar. Swami always seemed magnanimous as a child. And so when we had an interview in 95, I went running into the interview room, leaving my parents and my sister behind. I sat right by Swami's feet. I didn't realize how lucky I was at the time, but it's actually one of the moments that I remember the most from that interview is actually Swami's feet. They looked so soft. They felt like a safe place to be. And I remember feeling like I could just breathe easy sitting at his feet. My SSC teacher at the time had brought a portfolio of pictures we had drawn of Swami, and he was going through them one by one. And so my SSC teacher said to Swami, this one is Nirali's. Swami looked at the picture, he smiled, and he said, I know this is Nirali's. In my head, what I thought was, wow, how does he know me? I was really taken aback. God knows my name. In that moment, I couldn't comprehend or believe that Swami had even spoken or uttered my name. So here is a funny story from when I was a child. I can't remember the year, but it was when Sai Kumant Hall hadn't been built yet, and so we would sit in the sun waiting for Swami. My dad would take me to the men's side as a child, and everyone would always give my dad letters because Swami would always take them from him. So I had a lollipop to keep me occupied whilst I was waiting for Swami. So I unwrapped it, put it in my mouth, and along comes Swami for darshan. And my dad and his friend are giving letters to Swami. So my innocent little brain thought, everyone is giving Swami something. I want to give something too, but I don't have anything. What could I give? I then instinctively pulled the lollipop out of my mouth and offered it to Swami. Of course, Swami didn't take it, and I still can't believe I gave Swami a lollipop that I'd already put in my mouth. But that hilarious moment was captured on camera, and I have the photograph. But reflecting back on that moment, I thought to myself, why did I do that? It's not because everybody was offering something. It's because I wanted to offer Swami something from my heart, and I didn't have anything, and I wanted Swami to just take me, you know? And what I could just give was a lollipop. So let's fast forward now to 2004. The UK Young Adults of Region 4 had planned a trip to Berkeley. And I wasn't a young adult yet, but my sister was. So we were allowed to join in as well. There were some key moments from that trip that I recall. This is where Swami came as the role of my mother, protector, and doctor. I had a lump on my lower back, which was preventing me from moving a lot. I had to essentially shuffle everywhere and was very uncomfortable sitting on the floor. So I would go back to the room and sleep because I was in so much pain. I had asked my parents to lock me in the room because I wouldn't hear them if I locked it from the inside. So I was sleeping and in pain, and then all of a sudden, I feel somebody rubbing my back. And I slightly open my eyes and I can see a silhouette of Swami, and then I fall back asleep. I woke up and I thought, oh, this must be a dream. It must have been my parents or my sister or somebody. So when my parents and my sister had got back to the room, I asked them whether they had come back earlier and all rubbed my back. They all denied it. And that made me think, oh my God, I don't think that was a dream. I think that was actually Swami who had actually come to make me feel better. The lump was still there and it was still uncomfortable though. So I was wondering, okay, what's happening? So what happened was a few days later, the sisters actually had an interview with Swami, and there were some very sweet moments, and I'll talk about just a couple of them. So this was a time when Swami had hurt his hip. So his students were assisting his walking, and all of the girls were asking Swami how he was and how we love it when he plays with his hair, and Swami would playfully tussle his hair. And Swami said, oh, Swami is fine. And he wiggled his feet like this, and we all laughed. And Swami would tell us to be quiet because, what would people think? Swami with a room full of girls. And we laughed even more. And one question my sister had actually asked Swami was, Swami, how do we earn your grace? And this is quite important. Swami said, my grace is always there. How beautiful is that? His grace is always there. We just need to tap into it. We need to maintain and nurture that connection with Swami. We also showed Swami a portfolio of work that the young adults had undertaken. And this was work that was happening abroad as well. And Swami asked what we were doing in the UK. And one of the young adults said, well, UK is a developed country. It's sometimes hard to find opportunities to serve. Swami gave us a very clear message. He said to us, find the need. His message was clear. His instruction was clear. We knew what we needed to do. When we get back home, we have to find the need. As young adults, Swami always wants us to lead society, help society. And Swami says when the young adults have good conduct, that's when the world would have an ideal future. And when I still remember when Swami was leaving the room, we were all crying profusely. And I didn't have the courage to speak to him. But what did happen is whilst I was crying my eyes out, Swami gazed deeply into my eyes. And when you look into Swami's eyes, you just feel like as if the whole universe is in his eyes. It's incredible. It feels like a galaxy is in there. It was such an incredibly deep connection. And it was a beautiful interview. And when we left the room, I noticed actually that I could walk properly without any pain whatsoever. And when I'd got back to the room, I noticed that actually the lump had gone. So there are so many magical moments, and it's so hard to convey these sometimes. And one thing I learned is that it doesn't matter if you have seen Swami physically or not. He's everywhere. He makes his presence always known. We just need to be able to see it and notice it, that everything that we go through in our life is all by Swami. And sometimes we go through some really hard times as well. You know, all of us as young adults, as we're growing up, we're going to have experienced some of the darkest times in our life. And from my experience, Swami is the only one who gets us through this. He's the only one who sticks with you through anything and everything. You may think you have amazing friends, amazing family, amazing people around you, but don't forget that everybody is also temporary and we can't get attached to them. I learned that we must do our duty without attachment. Love everyone, but do it without the attachment. The attachment and expectation causes problems. Swami only asks us for our love, and he loves us unconditionally. So fast forward again to 2016, I was going through a really rough time at this point, and I was feeling really hurt, really alone, and I was spiraling downwards and hit rock bottom very, very quickly. My personality had changed. I'd gone from like this naive, innocent person believing that, you know, everybody has the same values and ideals, to realizing the truth that actually, exactly like Swami says, everybody is passing clouds, passing clouds. And the reason why people come into our lives and leave our lives is to help us grow and evolve, and to realize that, you know, we must recognize that Swami is our one true friend. Even if that experience may be painful in our lives, anything good or bad is just a perception. Everything that happens is to help us grow. So at this point, I'd completely shut down. I cut myself off spiritually, and I wasn't letting anyone in. I was even telling Swami in my mind to just leave me alone. But he was the one that never gave up on me. Even when I tried to let go of his hand, he held on to mine. This experience taught me that even at my worst, Swami still stuck around. Swami stuck by me. He knew who I was inherently. He knew the love in my heart. He was understanding, loving, and gave me the support I needed to get out of this black hole. And you know, Swami planted so many of his angels as instruments to give me the ultimate message. All you need is Swami. And when I went through this, I decided to travel. So I traveled to Malaysia and I stayed with a few of my sisters. And we were driving to another city, and, you know, I was still lamenting. And one of the sisters says, okay, we're going to pray. And what we're going to do is going to switch on the radio side discourse stream, and we're going to see what message Swami has for you. So we prayed, we switched it on, and loud and clear, the first message that came out was, God is your only friend. I burst out into tears. My road back had started. I then traveled to Australia, and on the morning of my trip, I was looking for a book to read, and a book called Divine Master had caught my eye. Now, I don't remember buying it, and nor did my family when I asked them. I flipped through the book and popped out this picture of a flame, and on the back it said that a small piece of wood from a vibhuti tub had self-ignited, and it was being maintained in Sydney. So I contacted the only two people I knew in Sydney, and I asked them whether they knew about this flame, and they said yes. You know, I thought maybe this was a sign from Swami. They said yes, and they were a good friend, so they would arrange a visit. So on my way to traveling to Australia, I actually had gone via Singapore, and it was a really long flight, and I was very thirsty when I boarded the aeroplane. And in my head, I was thinking, I really hope they give everybody some water. I'm feeling really parched, really dry, and I was incredibly tired. Literally 5 minutes into sitting down into my seat, a stewardess came up to me and said, "Are you Miss Nirali Sisodia?" I said, "Yes, I am." And she gave me a bottle of water. Only to me, though, not anybody else in the cabin. I was shocked. And once again, Swami just showed me that I'm here, I'm taking care of you, don't worry, I'm with you on this journey. And that just meant so much to me. You know, it reduced me to tears. So I get to Sydney and we visit the devotee's house. Now, she's an elderly Catholic lady, and she invited me into her altar room. The flame was there, and she said to me, "You must be going through a lot to be brought here." I burst out crying again, and I said, yes, why would you say that? How do you know? She said, when the flame ignited, they had gone to Bharti and had an interview with Swami, and they asked him how to tell people. And, if they told people that the house wouldn't be too big to accommodate everybody, if they don't tell anyone, then they're depriving people. And Swami said to them, don't worry, do what you have to do. The people who need to visit, I will bring them to you. I was shocked. She then told me it's actually 20 years to the day that I had actually arrived at her house. I was again shocked. Swami had orchestrated everything. The pain, the people I would meet, the angels he sent in the form of sisters. I couldn't believe it. I knew then I needed to be grateful for what I was going through, because it was evolving me spiritually. It was making me realize the truth, and I was slowly getting there. Coming back from Australia, I was having still some frightening times. I was intermittently suffering from something called nighttime paralysis. Now, this is a little bit scary, but when I would sleep, I couldn't sleep soundly. I would hear growling. I could feel pressure on my neck and on my chest, unable to scream for help or anything. And because I couldn't pray out loud, I chanted Om Namah Shivaya in my mind. And then as soon as I would chant, the whatever was happening would stop. I had no explanation for this at the time. Then the explanation came again from the book, The Divine Master. The author said that she had suffered from this, and people like Dr. Hislop and Diana Baskin had experienced the same. The book had explained that the more forward you go on the spiritual path, the more dark entities approach your soul as you attract both good and bad. I was astonished when I read this. And again, this was all planned by Swami, of course. And that night I had a dream where the sky looked like nebula and there was a giant cosmic Swami in a battlefield. It was me and Swami on one side and all the dark entities that were haunting me on the other side. With Swami by my side, I felt confident. I was in my superhero pose and ready to fight. And then Swami stretched out his hand to me to protect me, as if to say, stand down, I've got this, I will protect you. And Swami demolished all of those dark entities, and I haven't suffered from the ailment since. So there you go, brothers and sisters. Through thick and thin, Swami's the only one to rely on. The soul refuge, my best friend. I tell him everything. And sometimes people say, you can't talk to God like that. I say, he's my best friend. If I can't talk to him about everything, the one I trust the most, then who can I tell? He guides everything. He has even guided my career. I had failed the qualifying exam to become a pharmacist, and I didn't feel sad about it. I knew when I'd left the exam that I had failed. I just knew that I needed to revise differently. So Swami came in my dreams. He told me what I needed to do right up until the exam day. So I followed his instructions, and without a doubt in my mind. The night before the results, I started to have doubts, though. This is what happens. The last minute, you start to have doubts. So Swami came into my dreams, and we were sitting outside where we used to have Bhagavikas. And Swami said to me, what's wrong? Why fear when I am here? Tell me all your worries and I'll take them away. So we spent the whole night talking about everything. That morning, I received the message to say I'd passed my exam and now I'm a pharmacist. One final experience. Early in 2016, I had a dream where I was in Cyclewant Hall. Swami came for darshan and he was ignoring me. I was begging and pleading for Swami to talk to me, and he was still ignoring me. Then he turned round and looked at me with a firm look on his face, pointed his finger in my face and said only 3 words, do my work. And with that, he walked into the interview room. So he has given his instruction, do his work. Everything is his work. Offer it all. So everyone, let's heed Swami's word and be better versions of ourselves every day. Welcome the challenges, welcome the good, welcome the difficulties, welcome it all. For it is all Swami's doing. Let's be leaders like lions, like he says. Let us change society, be examples of love, and make our lives his message and wave his banner of love proudly. I know that we can face adversity being young or being different, but we can't let these things deter us. This makes us stronger and more determined. If our intentions are pure, Swami will make it happen. We should never give up. We don't realize it, but we are the hope for the world. Swami has trained us this whole time. If we recognize that Swami has prepared us for this task, then what we face are not obstacles but challenges. We just need to say, I have Swami with me, challenge accepted. So let's unite, let's come together as brothers and sisters, hold our head up high and be proud that we have all been chosen by Swami and raised by Swami to be his instruments and examples of human values. Let's be the head in the forest and hands in society. I'm so proud that we are all Swamis. So let us all keep Swami with us every day. And let's keep bugging him so he knows that we know that he is with us. So my brothers and sisters, let's embark on this journey together and make our best friend proud. Swami, we love you. Thank you all. Jai Sai Ram.
Some very key messages over there. Swami truly is our best friend. Friends come and go. Anything and everything in our life is passing by, but the only true thing that remains and continues to be that constant is Swami. How many times do we just leave his hand and, forget him? But he continues to be by our side, and through every trial and tribulation, every success and every failure, he is with us. And it's important for us, like you said, to remember that we are torchbearers of his message and we need to do his work. And I thought it was also very beautiful that you gave Swami a lollipop, just like his modern day shrubbery. And I think, that's the innocence of a child and innocence of your love. So that really has inspired all of us and for us to be his instruments, and we must strive to make our lives his message.